Babe, you're on camera.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is about to be epic. You do not want to miss this. Wow, we have Stacy Jewell Lewis, who is about to share her story with us and share some awesome things that are about to take place in her life that's going to bless the world. So you don't want to miss this interview. It's going to be epic. That's what I like to say, epic, guys. So I'm telling you, whatever bondage you're in, you can be free from it, no matter what it is. You know, so definitely hear this journey, definitely hear this story. I'm just excited to be a fly on the wall. That's all I got to say.
Yes, Jeff. So we are giving you all an opportunity to join in. Let me just, all right, babe, if you turn. And you let us know if you can see us.
Oh, this is great. All the hearts are flying in already. I love this.
Awesome.
Ladies, you're looking beautiful. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Okay. Well, I'm so excited. Thank you guys for joining me on Periscope Live. Just let me know with a comment if you can hear me okay. And can you all see me okay? All right. I'm here with a good friend and sister in Christ, Stacy Jewell Lewis, who has given me the opportunity to share with her and to just interview her because she's doing some awesome things in the kingdom, just some awesome things, period, that I want you all to hear about. I think that it's quite amazing that we chose to do this interview on September 11th, which is a day where our nation, our country is reflecting on freedom, but it's also reflecting on some of the terrorist acts that occur and some of the terrorist acts that go on. And today we're going to talk about another form of terrorism that's happening right here in Washington, D.C., and that's happening in your city, in your state. And we want you to recognize the signs. And this act of terrorism is sex trafficking. And so with that being said, I am going to give my friend Stacy an opportunity to really just share her story. We're in a neighborhood that I grew up in, and it's also a neighborhood that Stacy, you grew up here, right?
I grew up in DC, but I was living over here when everything happened in this area, right in this neighborhood.
Okay, so she was living right in this neighborhood, and it was just a trip because I grew up in this neighborhood, and this is the area where Stacy was trafficked, okay? So hold your questions. We're going to allow a time for you to do some question and some answer in a few. And so I want to give that opportunity. But right now I'm going to allow Stacy to share what is 7 Layers Captive, where did that come from, and just share whatever God leads you to share as far as your story.
Okay, good. Well, first I just want to say it is really a pleasure to do an interview with you, Jennifer, because, you know, we go way back. It may not go as far back as Jeff and my husband, Malachi, but we go way back you were at our wedding.
Yes.
And we were able to even minister together, 2 teens, 2 youth, and we both have really powerful stories of what God has been able to do in our lives. So to be able to kind of share this with you in an intimate setting and even in this neighborhood is really, really important to me, because sometimes, you know, these interviews can be impersonal, but this is personal, right?
Yes.
It's personal when we're talking about the work that we both do in sex trafficking, trying to raise awareness about sex trafficking, but then also to talk about what it looks like right here in our city, and that it's happening to our very own teens and children in our city.
Yes.
How key it is for us to all be aware and know what's going on. And that's just the point of this entire interview, as well as what we do.
Absolutely.
And that's the point of 7 Layers Captive, actually.
Yes.
You know, 7 Layers Captive was birthed out of, you know, me slowly beginning to kind of put my story together with the reality of what really happened to me, as well as where I transitioned through the journey, right? As I begin to kind of speak about sex trafficking and about my story, it started off with just my spoken word piece, 10 Years in One Day.
Okay.
And I'll never forget writing that piece, because, you know, when I came out of sex trafficking, I went to school and, you know, I joined ministry and I began to do productions with ministry and do spoken word, but I never talked about my past. I never really truly wrote anything or did any type of creative arts directly connected to what happened to me. And a lot of it is because of shame. A lot of it was because of guilt, things that I didn't want to come out, things that I was worried about. But people knew about it. You know, like my pastors knew about it, and people in the community knew about it, and law enforcement, they knew about it. But one day, you know, a good friend of mine called me and asked me to tell my story because some youth had gone missing and they wanted to do a show on the radio, and I did.
Y'all can tell we're in the hood.
I know.
So we may need
you got ambulances in the background,
yeah,
right?
Let's give a pause and let the cop go by.
And through the park, right?
Yes, and right through the park.
Right through the park.
And we thought we were finding a quiet space for this Periscope interview. So.
I don't know about a quiet space in the city.
Yeah.
You know, it's always activity going on, always some drama, always
Yes.
police officers, always ambulances, you know.
Yep.
And it's surprising that we often think that we're so safe, though, right? We're walking through these neighborhoods every day. I was 19 at the time. I was walking through this neighborhood. I was dropping my son off, who was about 1.5 years old, you know.
Can I just bring
I know,
bring that
I'm
back?
going right into
you
the
are
story.
19 years old.
Yeah.
19 years old. So some people, they think that it can't happen to you at 19.
And you know, I think that's a big point because 19, someone will say, well, you know, what did you do to kind of cause this, right? You were old enough, you were smart enough, but let's just put, you know, yourself in a situation, right? I missed the bus. It's been an hour, you know.
Can they hear her?
Can they hear me? Okay.
Let's see, guys. Can we hear? Let me see.
It's so different doing it live, so I know we have to stop and let people in.
And you may need to get closer, babe. I want them to hear the story.
Okay.
Perfect.
Everybody's saying yes. Everybody's saying yes.
Okay.
Okay.
With hearts.
That is so funny
Yes,
to me.
give hearts, guys.
That is so funny to me. So, I don't even know where to start, but we're just gonna go with the flow.
Yes.
But you know, so I was 19, and I dropped my son off, you know, at his father's at the time, and I was a young mother, you know. But I also, you know, at 19, you think you kind of know everything, and you think that you kind of are in control, and you think you know how to protect yourself, you know. And I missed the bus. It was like around 9:30 at night, and you know, if you are in the city and you take public transportation, if you miss the bus at 9:30 at night, you know what time the next bus is coming. Not for an hour, you know. And so I had this brilliant idea, and I thought to myself, I'll walk to Minnesota Avenue Station, you know. Now, granted, that's probably maybe, I would say roughly a mile, maybe.
Yeah.
Roughly a mile, but you know, in the city, you're used to it. You're thinking, you know, rather than wait an hour, I'll walk to the
down
station.
The street. Yeah.
No big deal. And as you start walking down the street, I start walking down the street, and I started thinking about all of the things that you're going to pass on your way to Minnesota Avenue Station.
Which you're going to pass
that
a lot.
you don't want to deal with, you know. You're seeing the gas station and the liquor store and all of the people that are waiting outside, you know. And I love, you know, this part when I talk about this in the play because I get the audience to interact with me. And I love the way they talk back to me. Even at the Kennedy Center, I'm going to be asking you guys to talk back to me. How long is it going to be when you're waiting at the bus stop? And the audience goes, about an hour, you know. Because this is personal. We're going to have a dialogue, you know, at the Kennedy Center with the play. But so we're here, you know, I'm walking. And of course, all of the wrong people ask you, do you need a ride? And you know what? You're not taking those rides, by the way. You know, when the car pulls up and the smoke's billowing out and they're like, hey, you know, you want to get in the car with me and my friends, you don't generally take that ride.
You're like, no.
You're like, no, thank you.
That's unsafe.
I'm okay. You're like, that's unsafe. But when a 70-year-old man pulls up, and he looks like someone's grandpa, and he looks like my grandpa, a caring grandpa, and he uses words like, you know, it's awfully late out here, and it's not very safe, and you're thinking about the places that you're about to walk by, that you don't want to walk by, and now he's looking like this innocent person that you would want the ride from.
So let me just interject for a second. 70-year-old grandpa looking man.
Yes.
You are waiting at a bus stop on Minnesota Avenue, which was definitely back in the 90s, right? This was early 2000,
so like 99 or 2000.
You know that it's not safe, generally safe in that neighborhood,
right?
But you wanted to get to the station, and this 70-year-old man who looks like a nice, kind old man just offered you a ride.
To the station.
To the station.
Yes, using very key words. you know, mind you, because this is all a part of the psychological programming, by the way. Safe. It's not safe out here. These are the trigger words that you're hearing, like, no, it's not safe. He's already convincing you and you don't even know it, right?
Wow.
These are adults, okay? These are adults talking to children. And even though I was 19, I didn't have the caliber of a 70-year-old man who is a criminal or who has a mindset. It's a trained mindset, you know? And you're not thinking of this at 19. You're like, I can take care of myself, you know? And I thought to myself, if he tries anything with me, he's old. I can.
Yeah, I can. Because that's what I was going to say. I was like, okay,
I can fight my way out of it.
Like you ain't, you know, you look like you can handle yourself.
I can handle myself with a 70-year-old.
Okay.
At least that's what you're thinking, right?
Okay, all right.
So, you know, you take the ride, and the ride gets trusting, you know, because you're kind of on guard, but, you know, he's talking to you. Oh, sweetie, how are you doing? Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Wow.
And now he's wrapping up. And what do young people do other than talk? Right?
Yeah.
Talking, oh, I'm fine, oh, I'm this, or this is why, this is happening, da-da-da. And he's wrapping you up and you're getting comfortable. And then before you know it, he's made that wrong turn away from the subway and it's too late. Because the trafficker and the predators that are there waiting for you that paid him, to pick up young girls, you know, are already connected. There's so many things that happen in between, but I go into it a little bit more in the play and some of the other things that we have coming up. But by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late. You're already in the car. And the bad guy or the person who set you up is waiting for you with a gun and saying, and you already know that now you have to survive.
And
You're in a survivor
situation.
situation.
Survival
you
mode.
just go right into survival mode. Right into survivor mode, and they tell you exactly how you're going to survive, and it's usually the threat of this is what can happen to you if you don't do what I say, you know.
Wow.
And by this time, you know, you've been talking and you realize that they've scoped out of this neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're watching who's getting on the bus and off the bus and what times they're doing it. And this was back then, so they didn't have social media.
Yeah.
They couldn't
They
get
didn't
where
have
I was going to be
Amber
at
Alerts on the phone.
right.
Okay.
You know, and let's be honest. Amber Alerts on the phone are going to be for toddlers.
Yeah.
They're not going to be for the 19-year-old who's gone missing or the 16-year-old who we did a prayer visual for on Wednesday.
Wow.
And luckily, you know, I had connections with some of the CBS News people and had them come out and cover this story because, you know, news media outlets did not want to cover the 16-year-old missing.
I mean,
right?
So how often do we see on the news different people, different teenagers that just go missing, and we attribute it to run away.
Mm-hmm.
They ran away. And we just brush it off. And I'm sure at that time people thought you were just running away.
That's exactly.
Running away from your responsibility as a young mom.
As a young mom, absolutely. One, I would like to say you don't see them on the news. The 16-year-olds and the 17-year-olds that have gone missing. Because they don't make it to the news. By the time they get to the police report, if we as a people actually report our 16 and 17-year-olds missing. Because normally what happens, you've had a fight with mom, you've had a fight with dad, I want to be with my boyfriend, and you're angry, and you're packing your bags and you leave out, and your mom go, if you leave out, don't come back tomorrow trying to get in, right? You're having that argument, and then you know what, your mom or your dad, and they're busy and they're working or they're not home, they don't pick up the phone, they think you did run away. They think you did go with your boyfriend. They don't know you've been led away and led astray by someone who is going to use you and trap you and keep you captive both mentally, emotionally, and physically. Because that's what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. You're trapped. You are in this place of fear and you're in this place of shame, and you feel like you did this to yourself. Why? Because how did I begin to blame myself? The first thing one of my traffickers told me, and I talk about it real in detail in the play, is, you know, it was your choice to get in that old man's car.
Wow.
So now what am I doing? I am blaming
yourself
for
that
this.
Guilt and condemnation.
I am
from Satan himself.
From Satan himself.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest captivity that I have ever seen and experienced is the shame and guilt and condemnation that comes around with this captivity.
Now, we know you had a turnaround moment,
mm-hmm.
and when things begin to turn around, and I don't want you to give away too much, guys.
I know, I'm trying.
Because
so
I
much.
want you all, this play at the Kennedy Center is going to be so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for it. and I don't want you to give away too much, but tell me a little bit about, I guess, that turning point and what that looked like for you psychologically, like what had to happen for you to get out?
Well, you know, honestly, I hit rock bottom. Honestly, I was pretty much laying in a puddle of my own blood, pretty much.
A puddle of your own blood?
A puddle of my own blood, pretty much. I had gotten to a place where the trafficker said, you know, if you want to leave me, if you want to get away from this, then you don't want to live.
Wow.
That's really honestly, you know, because before that, I didn't know how to get out. But when you're laying there and you're in this situation and you can feel life pretty much coming out of your body, there's only one person that you're going to call on if you know who to call on. Yeah. But I remembered, you know, I might not have been in the church and I might not have been talking to God every day, but those little seeds that my parents sowed into me when I was young, I remembered, wait a minute, there's someone I can call on and his name is Jesus.
Yes.
So I don't have to stay here like this. I'm like, God, help me. I can barely get the words out. God, help me. You know, and I remember
sometimes
that.
That's all you need to say is, God, help me.
God, help me. Jesus, help me.
Yes.
And how many girls need to hear that right now?
Yeah.
There is someone you can call on, even though you think you can't call your parents, you can't call your friends, you can't call police. You can call God.
Yeah.
And if someone is even watching this or gets connected to this later or gets this link, you can call God.
Yeah.
Because he rescued me. And I won't get all deep into it, but let me tell you, the glory goes to God all the way.
Wow.
All the way, in every single way. Wow. So it's a lot. It's a lot, but people need to know how easy it is to be susceptible to this crime. Because they know more than you do. You are never prepared for someone's bad intentions.
Yeah, because
no matter
they
what.
Studied it, and they're carefully planning.
Carefully planning. This is
they're
organized
watching
crime.
You go in and out of your house. They're watching you go to the subway station. They're watching to see, okay, is she with a guy today? Is she with? Okay, all right. Well, maybe she's single. You know, they're watching.
It is. And you know, back when we were growing up, this was called pimping. They didn't call it trafficking.
Yeah.
So we weren't looking at it like this big danger of kidnapping. We're looking at it like, oh, this girl has a pimp and he has a feather in his hat and they have colors on and she's deciding to be a prostitute on the street. And, you know, we had a different idea of what this looked like.
A lot of that, you know, was because of hip-hop culture. You know, hip-hop culture glamorized pimping. Big pimping. All those songs.
Right,
and you would see it. And so when you would see the girls out on the stroll, you would look down on them because you would think that they chose that particular lifestyle.
Right.
And so I'm just so glad what's happening now with the awareness that's happening, because we know that you cannot look down on people. You don't know if they chose that. And
you don't
even
know.
if they did choose, you're not any better than them. Their sin is no greater than yours.
Right.
And so now my prayer is that when people see that going on, that they'll want to get involved, that they'll want to take action, that they'll want to pray for those girls, that they won't look at them like, oh my gosh, like what are they doing? You know?
Exactly. I think my biggest thing is that when you do see those girls on the corner, on the blocks at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, I think what is so interesting is that you rarely stop to think that girl may be 13.
Wow.
Because when I was out there, they were definitely 13. The youngest was 12.
Wow.
But 12 years old. On the stroll, mind you.
On the stroll,
made up, had the clothes on, had the fishnets on, had the heels on. And as soon as you see that, you just drive by and think, oh, you know, that's just a prostitute.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they were children. And, you know, and we've come a long way. Thank God we've been, you know, raising awareness and legislation has been going forward.
Yeah.
But back then, you know, those teenagers were also getting thrown in jail.
Wow.
For prostitution.
Wow.
And someone has, you know, control over their minds and has threats over their family and their life. And they're afraid, you know? So it's a lot.
So let's take a couple of questions from the Periscope viewers. You know, we have people from all over the world. And Jeff, I'm going to allow you to just read which questions you think are suitable. We'll take a few of them, and then we're going to tell you how you can help Stacy get this message out of sex trafficking awareness and how you can support her play, 7 Layers Captive. So any questions, babe?
Let's see. Not yet. Just a bunch of hearts right now.
Oh,
They're just
That's a
listening.
good
They're
thing.
caught up right now. I'm giving them all the information.
Someone said, this is amazing, powerful. Rock, paper, scissors. Hello, sister.
Hey, rock, paper, scissors. Follow Rock, Paper, Scissors, guys. That's another awesome organization that is doing so much for victims of sex trafficking. She's out of Seattle. She's having growth groups all across the country, so follow her as well.
Oh, this question said, what happened with your son while you were still being held?
That is actually usually my #1 question. My son actually ended up being with his father. But I'm going to tell you this, and normally I wouldn't give all this away, but I'm going to give you this information, and I talk about it in the play. My trafficker had me do something very critical while I was with him after the first 2 weeks of me being abducted. And he said, you know, and this was held by gunpoint, and, you know, back in those days we had payphones.
Yeah.
Right? And so it wasn't a cell phone. And he stood at the payphone with me with his gun, and he told me to make this particular phone call to a family friend. And that phone call was to say, hey, I'm all right. I know y'all looking for me. I'm good. I needed some time to do me.
Wow.
Now, I'm held at gunpoint while I'm making this phone call.
Probably shaking with tears.
I needed some time to do me. Now, he didn't tell me to call my family because they're too close. They would hear my voice. They would know something was wrong. But a family friend. And so when I hung up the phone, I needed some time to do me. What do you think this family friend went and did? Told everybody in my family. She just disappeared. She just needed some time for herself. She left her son. She went to my son's father. She told everyone that I had abandoned my child. So of course, his father and the family, they took care of my son. But now the shame is that much bigger, right?
Yeah.
Now I don't have access, even if I wanted to go back.
Yeah, they're
because
looking
they're
at
looking at
you
me
as you abandoned your
as
son.
you abandoned your son. And luckily, and God, and I'm blessed that he had a father who really truly loved him and took care of him, and family members that were able to help and assist with him. But you know, that was a really trying time. But it was also the hope that also kept me alive, because I knew I was coming back to the one who I love so much, which was my son. You know, so yeah, and it's definitely amazing of what God has done in me and my son's life. And I want to get this out now because I know that's always a question that everyone asks. And yeah, my son is fully with me. Yes, he's fully with me, and
he's doing awesome.
And he's doing awesome. He's doing awesome. So that story will come out another time, but he's doing great, and we are together, and he loves, you know, the Lord, and he's my biggest fan and supporter, by the way. He stands with me, and I remember he even spoke to introduce me at a sex trafficking event as well. So he understands what God has done for our family.
Can I share this too? You're also married.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so a lot of people, you know, you go through different things in life, and you don't think that you're worthy of an awesome man of God.
Yes.
So tell me about your awesome man of God.
My awesome man of God, who is good friends with your awesome man of God, by the way. In fact, I believe your awesome man of God, your husband, took my husband to a play, and I was the one in the play at the time. It was a church play. It was called Sex Mosaic.
Yeah.
You know, we were giving glory to God and having, you know, the Lord break strongholds in the area of sex.
Pastor J. Cameron.
And Pastor J. Cameron, who's coming to the play, mind you.
Wow.
Because he's super excited about this too. And I was on the stage. I was one of the characters on the stage, and my husband and your husband were in the audience.
Wow.
And it's an interesting story, because I tell him, I said, you know, you were stalking me. I tell my husband that. I was like, you were stalking me. But he said that he looked at my character and me on the stage and said, oh, I want a wife like that, God. And I was like, little did you know. Do you remember this job?
Yes.
I said, little did you know the Lord was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and slowly but surely our paths began to cross. I was like a secretary at the church, and I worked on productions at the church. And I dedicated my whole life to Christ because I remembered who it was that rescued me. I remembered who it was that rescued me, and no one else, you know, was coming for me at that time.
And he knows everything about you, of course. I mean, it's public knowledge. She was on the news last night, and God has just opened some amazing doors. But he never judged you for your past.
Never.
He saw you as the new creature in Christ that you are.
Yes.
I think that's something our husbands have in common.
Right.
Because my past wasn't too pretty either. Okay?
Right.
We have some good questions.
So let's take another question.
Yeah, we have 2 good questions. I'll start with this one. The first one was, how did you deal with your past scars? Healing from your past scars. And so this person mentioned PTSD, thoughts while dating, things of that nature. How did you deal with that?
Oh my God, those questions are so good.
Yeah.
Because that is very difficult. It was very difficult, and it took a lot of time. And it was first becoming aware that they were scars. So for me, I didn't have anyone walking me through, this is what happened to you. You were a victim. You didn't, this wasn't your choice. So I had too much shame for a very long time. But the more aware I began to become that I didn't ask for this. I didn't deserve for this to happen to me. The Lord began to show me that, someone had bad intentions against you, but first, it's not your fault. The moment I began to understand, this isn't my fault. This wasn't my fault. I didn't deserve this, but God loves me, and it's going to be okay. I began to break off and shatter that guilt and shame that keeps you away from wanting to talk to a man, or to feel good enough to be even looked at, to not feel like they want something from you that's sexual, to know that there's a man that can look at you like as a woman of God. And my husband also had to go through this with me, even when we first started talking, because the very first thing I did when he began to introduce himself to me and say, hey, do you want to go to dinner? And I'm like, what do you want? What do you mean you want to go to dinner? Why? What are you trying to get from me? I used to stay so far away from men, like every man was like a bad guy, It's like poison. And he used to just be looking like, oh, and I used to be like, why are you opening the car door? Don't open the car door. Like, you want something from me. He used to be like, okay, it's okay. And so he knew that there were some issues here early on. But he was a man of God, and he really was able to we were able to develop a friendship. And that slow friendship really helped me to believe that he didn't want anything more from me than I was willing to give. And I had already developed really big boundaries. They were too big. They were walls the size of, Jericho, So I started off with those boundaries first, and then slowly but surely began to break those down, and we had to walk together, because there are a lot of memories that come back. There are a lot of things that come up to haunt you. There are a lot of things that can keep you from feeling like you can ever have a normal relationship. But the power of Christ is bigger than that. And my husband had the power of Christ with him, and I had the power of Christ with me, and we had a church family and people to help us kind of walk through these things. You can't do it by yourself.
Community is
you
so important.
You can't do it by yourself.
Trying to break free. Community.
You really, and it would have probably happened a lot sooner if someone was able to say that to me earlier and understand what happened to me and understand where I had been. And I didn't have that. So it took me 10 years.
Because part of a pimp's motive is to take someone and isolate.
Yes.
They don't want them to be connected. And if they could isolate you and start to work that psychological stuff on you.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And don't get me wrong, he dated me for 4 years, and like I told him, I said, hey, for me, there couldn't be any sexual activity in that time frame for that 4 years. And that was for me because I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed that healing. This isn't for me to, shame anyone who has relationship struggles or anything like that. But it was because I needed to know that you didn't want me for my body. Because when I was out there, that's what my body became.
Yeah.
To be used this way by the enemy.
Wow.
So it was important for me to trust and to see that he wanted me in my heart, my mind, And more than that. I'm sorry. Jeff has another
this is
question because
good.
I can go all the way
We're gonna
in.
take one more question, and,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna share with you guys how you can get connected.
Yeah,
We are going in. We're about to have relationship conversations.
Yes.
there's some great comments. One comment was, "This is awesome how God strategically restored you, just as the enemy
Yes.
tried to take you." Another was that she needs to speak in high schools. This needs to be heard. Another one was also, the question was, that have you mentored other people who've come out of sex trafficking?
I have. I actually do. I have and I do. It's private because one thing I noticed about sex trafficking survivors sometimes
People
can
like to
easily
exploit
get
them.
exploited by their stories, and they can get re-victimized all over again by people saying, "Oh, this is the survivor who I'm working with. Look at them and look at their story and now donate to me because look who I'm helping."
Yeah.
And I actually started really mentoring quite a few survivors who were coming to me from that wounded place.
Wow.
From that wounded place of being re-exploited, trying to tell their stories. So I do walk them through this process, and I do talk to them about their stories, and we have kind of a sisterhood going on. And one of the amazing things is one of my sisters who was with me in this lifestyle. My best friend, and she's probably not going to kill me because she knows I take her with me when we go ministering and things together.
Yeah.
But Shannon Nash Carter, and she was literally one of the girls who was trafficked or who was in this stable with me in this lifestyle when I came to Jesus Christ, and then she came to Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And now we are both going out.
She's on fire.
And
for
she's
God.
on fire for
Yeah.
Christ. She's on fire for Christ, singing for Christ and just walking with me. So it is a wonderful testimony to see that Christ can not only just rescue the one, but when he rescues the one too, how you can go back and rescue all the more, and God can restore so much. And so she's a good friend of mine, and I just love her so much. And
I can't
she's
wait
gonna
to
be
meet her.
like,
She gonna be
really,
at the play?
Stacy? Of course she will be there. Of
Okay.
course she will
All
definitely
right.
be there. And a whole bunch of members of my team who God strategically, put in my life and made them the perfect team to walk this process out. This Kennedy Center walk it's going well beyond my own
So
understanding.
let's talk about, as we close out, guys, because this Periscope interview has definitely run on because it's so good. I want you to talk about 7layerscaptive.com, how they can get connected, your need for sponsorships, because there is a need for sponsors.
It's a need for sponsorships.
Tell people why there's a need for sponsors.
Well, there's a need for sponsorships because the Kennedy Center isn't cheap. The Kennedy Center isn't cheap. It's the primo top of theater, not just in the district but across the country. And there are expenses that come with doing the production, and I felt like God strategically allowed these open doors for me to come in to show the power of what he can do, because there's no organization pushing me, and there's no big corporation saying we've put all this money in you, now cater your production to our agenda. This is grassroots. This is literally money from my little bank account, and my executive producer's bank account, and we're friends, Delphia Roberts, and she's agreeing to help with things, and then my team, and we're doing this by ourselves. So it would really be helpful to have corporate sponsors, business sponsors that say, hey, we'll walk with you to the Kennedy Center.
We're walking with you.
We'll
Jeff
walk
and
with
I,
you to the Kennedy Center.
We're personally sponsoring you.
Yes,
and so
yes.
we're
So
excited.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that, and I'm super excited about that. And I have one other sponsor who did come on. So right now I have 2 sponsors, everyone. That's exciting.
But she needs
two
a whole
sponsors
lot
now.
more, guys. It takes a whole lot more to get this story out and to just bring awareness. And it's happening at the Kennedy Center. I mean, it's such an amazing testimony, and you have an opportunity, those who are watching, to be a part of that. So go to 7layerscaptive.com. And is there anything else you would like to share as we close?
Oh, anything else I would like to share? Okay, other than go to 7layerscaptive.com, and we have VIP sponsorship packages on the website. I have my GoFundMe site. It's gofundme.com/7layerscaptive. And
Let me say that slowly. GoFundMe.com/7, the number 7 layers captive.
7 Layers Captive.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Of course. And if you want to buy tickets feel free to go to the Kennedy Center's website. They'll have a link there. Oh, and one last thing, I do want to just say thank you to Grace Covenant, my church, because they have sponsored 10 youth to come to the production by purchasing tickets. So this is another way you can sponsor as well.
Wow.
If you have youth, at-risk youth group, you know, sponsoring 10 youth to come to the production, because these are the ones who I really in my heart want to have in the audience.
Someone said they would love to support.
Oh, good. That's awesome. Awesome. This is
great. We're going to try to get this out and get some youth there, and we're so excited. But thank you for taking the time to do the interview.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. You know I love you so much. And I love Jeff so much. And thank you for introducing me to my husband.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That's the reason why I would love you too.
He that findeth.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Please share this Periscope link, and we'll tune in later.
Yeah, later. Good,
Bye.
good. Bye.